Welcome to today's show on JTV. I'm David Rice. Good to have you with us, whether you're watching on TV, online, listening on the pod. Appreciate it. Our show today brought to you by the Insurance Circle Agency. You can visit them. They're probably located in both Jackson and Battle Creek. MyInsuranceCircle.com. It's the hat I'm wearing today, the new hat, and the new tumblers on the set. So thanks to the crew at the Insurance Circle Agency. Got a great show for you. JTV sports commentator Josh Burgett is going to join the show in a little bit. Really excited to talk to him. We have a lot to cover with our 25th season of high school football. My favorite time of the year, 25 years, starts tomorrow night, presented by Minuteman. Be there, and if you're not going to be there, watch on JTV. Myself, Josh, Pat, and Max, really excited to bring you the game. Other high school sports updates, I'll mention it again at the end of the show, but our own Josh Burgett, the new Napoleon High School head softball coach. So, and in other sports around the area, a lot of volleyball action Tuesday night, Hanover-Horton in straight sets over the Jackets from Concord. Northwest 2-1 in a quad with Leslie, Ypsi-Lincoln, and Pinckney. Napoleon split in volleyball, Onstead and Sand Creek, and lost to Manchester. Western went 1-1 in a tri-meet. We have a bunch of sports happening tonight, Wednesday. Volleyball, cross country, boys soccer, girls golf, boys tennis, and both Spring Arbor University men's and women's soccer teams are on the road. So a lot happening. But don't worry, because JTV has all the photos. We're everywhere, and our daily scoreboard you can check later this evening or the next day for scores and pictures from any of the local events, college and high school athletics. Go to jtv.tv and our orthopedic rehab specialist photo galleries. So, and again, high school sports, not only is football back, every sport is back. It's good to be in that favorite time of the year again. And also excited because the Detroit Tigers are playing good still. They're on a roll. Adam, they've won 5 in a row.
How is this
How
happen?
can you not be... We've talked the last show, and we're still saying, oh, they're not going to get in the playoffs. I'm more confident now. I think they can get in.
Hey, man, 5.5 back is pretty crazy. I mean, we were, like you said, we were talking not that long ago on the show, and 10 games back, I was thinking, this is probably the time we can call it. And boy, do I look stupid. I was just telling Brandon that before the show. It's like, now we're 5.5 back. Only the Red Sox are in front of us in terms of like who's behind. So we're only second, behind. So it can happen, dude. This can actually happen. I'd be shocked, but man, am I rooting for him. I'm going to be watching the next few games to see if we can keep this streak alive.
Tigers are now 67-66, now over 500 for the first time in over 8 years. They've won 5 games in a row headed into tonight, Wednesday night. Wednesday and Thursday night, they have 2 more games versus the atrocious Angels from L.A. So the Tigers will finish 69-66 after Thursday night.
I mean, think about this. Think about us beating them, then going up against the Red Sox. Imagine if we swept the Red Sox. We could be like just a few games behind.
As much as I'd like that to happen, keep dreaming.
Okay, hey, we'll see.
I know they're going to drop at least, out of the 3 games, at least one. At least one.
But what if they didn't? But what if they swept them?
Oh, that'd be great, and I want that to happen.
It'd be so great.
At least it's not at Fenway, though. That'd make me feel a lot better.
I didn't know for sure if it was here or if it was Fenway.
Here. If it was at Fenway, I wouldn't be as confident.
That definitely helps.
The Red Sox are 68-64. They're the only team, like you said, ahead of the Tigers, 4 games back. So if we take 2 out of the 3, at least, from the Red Sox, that puts us now ahead of Boston going into the last couple weeks of the season, and we're right there. And we'll still be 3 or 4 games back, but I forget who that last team is that's in right now.
It stinks. I can't remember. Maybe is it a team in our division? I can't remember. I will take a look. Give me like 2 seconds and I'll find it.
It's not the Astros. We'll find out in a second. But
okay, I found it.
Okay.
That's how quick I am. How about that? Looking on my phone here. It is.
It's almost like we have a research department.
Yeah. So wild card. So right now it is currently Minnesota would be that next team. So it's Minnesota and then Kansas City and Cleveland are both up 2.5 on top of Minnesota. So
Okay, well, I mean, even if we just missed the playoffs, it reminds me, and I hate to say this again because I'm not a Lions fan. I know we're in Michigan, but this kind of reminds me of the Lions a couple years ago. Like it came down to that last week, but because of how Seattle ended their game, Detroit couldn't get in.
That's
but
right.
They still ended off on a high note. We won't talk about that last game.
no, we can
Well, we're not.
we can
going
talk
to.
about
We're not
the
going
Packers
to.
game.
We're gonna talking about how the Packers are gonna make the NFC Championship game at least minimum this year. That's what I want to talk about.
Knocked you guys out of the playoffs when we had nothing to play for. We were just playing just to play, just because that's how much we didn't like the Packers.
Well, we're still making it at least minimum to the NFC Championship game.
There you go. Well,
this year,
keep dreaming.
Well, I don't know. I tell you what, we got the highest paid quarterback, so that.
You can pay him. I'm happy you guys are paying him a crazy amount of money. That's great for us.
He's shown it after last year. The youngest team ever to make the playoffs. We were really terrible halfway through the year. I thought we were going to end up with like the 4th or 5th pick, and yeah, we'll see again in maybe a couple years. And then we hang 50 in a playoff game and win on the road.
That was impressive. I'm not going to lie and say that beating the Cowboys like that wasn't impressive, because that was awesome, especially after what happened with the Cowboys and Lions. For sure.
Did it feel good as a Lions fan when that happened, or?
I was kind of confused because I didn't like rooting for the Packers, but watching that happen to the Cowboys, and I just don't like the Cowboys as well. So
Nobody likes the Cowboys.
Right. So it was pretty funny. It was pretty funny.
I just saw that this morning. How is he still the GM, Jerry Jones? Did you see that they?
Well, isn't he the owner? Isn't that
owner
so? He's,
and
yeah.
GM.
So he's
Somebody
as long as
asked
he wants to
him.
be.
Somebody asked him, "Do you still think you deserve to be the GM?" He's like, "Yeah, I don't see why not. I don't know, because you haven't won anything big in longer than I've been alive. That's why."
Wild.
So, all right. Well, when we come back, really excited to have on the show JTV sports commentator Josh Burgett. We're going to cover Lumen Center happening tomorrow night here on JTV. We'll talk a little bit Michigan football. We'll talk other high school teams to preview this year, and another special guest in the studio for the college football picks. So with the college football picks, again, favorite time of the year, that is happening this weekend too, in addition to high school football. So JTV production manager Noah Baker on the college football picks. JTV's own Noah Baker, college football, not only high school football back this weekend, college football's back. Go Blue, defending national champs, Michigan opening up.
You can't take our trophy. It's ours.
Yeah. You can take Connor Stallions all you want.
Have
you can't
him. Have him. The trophy's ours.
Yeah, you can't take our trophy. Michigan opening up Saturday night at home against Fresno State. This isn't any discussion. Go Blue by 2 miles, not just a country mile, by a few more.
Hopefully, a whole lot of points. Yeah, by a lot.
Yeah, same here. They're gonna win by. I would predict they're gonna win by 3 touchdowns.
Okay. Michigan State, Sparty, Friday night, hosting Florida Atlantic. To me, they're a basketball school. They're not a football school, but they have a transfer quarterback who played okay at Marshall. And again, we hate Sparty with a passion. Even the color green is terrible. Give me the Owls, Florida Atlantic.
I mean, I could really care less about this game altogether, but
who else cares other than Brandon? Who cares about this game?
Michigan State will probably win, and they'll act like a 14-point win over Florida Atlantic is like a really big deal. And then
like when Patrick Beverly won the play-in tournament, it was the biggest deal in the world.
Good for you, and no one cares, and you're gonna lose every Big Ten game. So,
I watched an interview with the Michigan State new quarterback, and he said at the end of the interview before he walked away, he said, "If you're a betting man, take the over." So they are going to score a lot of points, a lot of points. I think it's going to be a very high scoring game.
Really?
I think it will. I think it won't be really back and forth as much. I think it will be extremely high scoring, and I think Michigan State will win probably by like 14.
So I'm the only one that took the Owls in
Yep,
this
you are.
game. Okay. Well, that's just because I know like Michigan State. I know you both don't either, but just because.
Yeah.
All right, Buckeyes hosting the Zips from Akron.
What are
This
these
is-
games?
Let's
Week
go
one.
Zips. Let's go Zips.
Give me the Buckeyes, as much as I hate to say that.
Probably Ohio State. It's very similar, probably Ohio State by a whole bunch, or they win by like 14 and again act like they're going to conquer the world. But you're playing no one. You're playing a fourth grade team, so it's not really a test of anything.
Yeah. Same here, Ohio State. I'll say Ohio State wins by 40. They're going to win by a lot.
All right, we've got our last two games a little bit more competitive than our first three. Number 14, Clemson, going to take on the number 1 Georgia Bulldogs. Now, Clemson's in trouble in this game. Give me the Bulldogs, Georgia.
The hell is wrong with Clemson scheduling that to open up your season? Like
It's rough.
you just want to get your
who
flip to
made
start
that?
out. Like I don't understand. Like you don't have to schedule. You don't have to be Ohio State and schedule like a fifth grade team or anything. But I mean, like you schedule Georgia your first game. That's horribly stupid. Georgia's going to thump them into the ground.
Yeah.
And it's going to start your season off just terribly. You could probably still win the ACC, but no one will care because you started the season by getting beat by Georgia by 48 points.
Right.
Yeah. Georgia's my pick to win it all, so I have Georgia easily.
Might be our most competitive game out of these 5. Notre Dame, number 7, at number 20, A&M. Now, ESPN has A&M -3 in this game.
Yeah.
I'm surprised by that. This was a toss-up for me. I think I'm going to take the Aggies at home against Notre Dame.
Nice.
For simplicity, as we're moving forward in the college football season, I would like to see the Aggies just beat them, and that way I don't have to hear about an undefeated Notre Dame team like the rest of the year. Because just get this done right now. That'd be great. I will take Notre Dame, but I'd love to see the Aggies win.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. I think it'll be very close. I think I'll take the Aggies. I'll say the Aggies take it.
Okay. Well, I think we only had one different pick compared to all three of us, me being
That's
Florida
funny.
Atlantic. So this will be the first game of our running total we'll have this season, right, for our guest pickers. So
I'm not coming back next week.
you can come back whenever you want.
Yeah, we'll have you
Thanks.
back on. We'll have you back
Yeah.
on.
All right, just don't let anybody else screw up my average. I'd be really aggravated about that.
JTV's own Noah Baker will all be at, again, Lumen Christi tomorrow night, 25th season of high school football.
Come see David.
Don't come and see me. Come and see Josh Burgett and Pat O'Dowd and Max Fritz, and go hang out with them in the trailer. I don't know. Don't come to see me.
Say David.
So, all right, well, college football, favorite time of the year, high school football starting this weekend. When we come back, though, JTV's own Josh Burgett is going to be joining the show, so stay tuned. Welcome back here on JTV. I'm David Rice. Our show today brought to you by the Insurance Circle Agency. Thanks to the Circle for the new set decor. I got the hats and the tumblers, so thank you to the Insurance Circle Agency. To get the conversation started, go to myinsuranceCircle.com. Excited to have on the show today, and we welcome him in now, JTV sports commentator Josh Burgett joining the show. Josh, thanks for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, David. I'm on the David Rice Show. How about that?
Yeah. Our 25th season, high school football, tomorrow night. I can't believe it's already, it's my favorite time of the year, but I still feel like summer flies by really quick. We don't get enough of it. And then right next thing you know, we're into football.
I remember when we got done with basketball and just thinking how quickly that was going to happen. And it seems like every single year we have that same conversation. It's just like summer's gone so quickly.
Yep.
And here we are, get through media days. The teams and programs have been in fall camp. And we're ready to put toe to leather here tomorrow night, which is just crazy to think about. But hey, as the kids are back in school, we might as well play some high school football.
For sure. We had a really good time at Chelsea State Bank Media Day. 20 teams in 2 days, so it's always always fun to catch up with the coaches and maybe new players every year. So it's just it's a fun couple of days getting ready for the season.
Yeah, and it's a great venue. Jackson High hosts us in the Glick Center there, which is just fantastic. But I'm with you. I just love the fact that we get to see all the new players that are coming in, some of the old faces that we're used to seeing, but then the chance to talk to the coaches and understand what their summers and off seasons have been like, what they're preparing for the rest of the year, and how they're preparing, and kind of what their outlook for the new squad's going to be. It's always just a fun time to catch up with everybody and prepare. And it was a great couple of days. Got me excited, ready to go for this year's football season, and finally now about a month later, we're ready to go.
It's always fun for me, too, to talk to the new head coaches that are coming in, or maybe just the first and second year coaches, just to see how their off-season has went. Because we have a couple new coaches in the area that have only been with that school for, a couple of months, trying to get the program for them and be ready for the season. I know Josh Lindeman now is with Manchester. So now a new Addison head coach, new Springport coach. So it's just exciting to talk to the new coaches, too. And those are veteran coaches that we've seen in the area for a while, just in different colors now. So, and that's kind of weird to me going back and watching your media day interviews. It's like, wow, Josh Lindeman's now in, Manchester colors. Ben Pack is in blue, which I didn't think we'd see that.
Yeah, that's the kind of. It's not so much new coaches. You look at Hillsdale, Joe Williamson. That's replacing longtime coach there in Hillsdale. That's kind of the only new coach we have to the area, right? But I mean, I tell you what, you think about some of the movement that we've seen. Harry Bailey, I think, is going to be very interesting at Addison. There's a lot of belief that Addison's just going to kind of fall off, and you got a great coach. Spend 5 minutes with Harry Bailey, and you're going to understand. He's got a Hudson background, played at Adrian College, coached at Adrian College. And now the head coach at Addison, just good guy seems to be, and I'm excited to see what he can do with that Addison program. But then, Josh Lindeman, one of my favorite guys and coaches to talk to. I just love the way he coaches and the way he kind of builds a program. He did a tremendous job at Addison. To see him now at Manchester is going to be very interesting to see what he can do with that program. You got to think he's the defending Division 7 and 8 Coach of the Year. So really just kind of incredible accolades. How often do you see that?
Right.
When you switch in conference after you win an accolade like that. So it'll be fun to watch him. And then Ben Pack, who's done a tremendous job at every school he's ever gone to. He's the latest coach at Lead Manchester, did a great job building that program back up. And to see what he can do with Springport, I think he's going to turn that program around as well.
So the first-year head coach, Harry Bailey from Addison, and Ben Pack, like you mentioned, has done such a great job. He was a coach at Jackson High. Done a nice job at Manchester. So I'm interested to see how he does now in the Big 8 with Springport.
Yeah, and they have athletes coming back, right? I mean, this is that Springport has not enjoyed the success that they enjoyed about 4 or 5 years ago, but they have the potential to get back there. And I think, Big 8 is interesting this year. Union City has dominated that league the past 2 years. Reading's fallen off a little bit. I'm interested to see if they can get back. But the addition of Stockbridge, I think, is really interesting for that league. I think that Stockbridge is going to be a really tough competitor and almost immediate championship contender in that league. So how Springport rebounds, how Stockbridge establishes themselves in that conference, and how Union City looks coming back, I think will be important for that league.
I think, to me, the Cascades Conference is, as far as teams who could win it or be competing, it's a little more open than it has been the last couple of years. We've seen Napoleon and Addison the last couple of years compete for the conference. And now, I know you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of people that have been saying Addison's going to, fall off. They're not going to be the same. I think they're still in the mix. And Napoleon's got a mix of experience coming back, especially on the line, but they do have a new quarterback and a new running back. So they have a mix of guys. Grass Lake really didn't lose too many players. They've kind of reloaded. And same thing with Michigan Center. They didn't lose a ton of guys either. And then you look at the west side. Now we have full 6 teams again. Vandercook, which I know we're excited to have them back too, to play in the Cascades. But in the west, I feel like that's even more open to me than the East, Jonesville, Addison, Columbia. So it's a really open Cascades conference. So I'm interested to see how it ends up turning out this year.
I think the Cascades Conference is as interesting as it has ever been. And that is exactly what you just described. And I think both sides are wide open. I think they're a little bit different, though. I think the East is loaded with, I think, some really good teams. I don't know if they're state good teams. We'll see what Michigan Center, Grass Lake, Leslie, Manchester, what they start to look like as they go through the season, if they can make a run in the playoffs. I think that could be interesting. But I then flip that over and I look at the West, where I don't think any of them have the ability to compete at a statewide level. But I think they're very even, and I think there's some opportunities for all of those schools to go out and win. I don't know, Vandercook returns a ton of starters from last year. They're back in 11-man football. They are young and inexperienced, so I don't know that they step in right away and can compete. But everybody else in that division, I think, has the opportunity to compete. Homer, coming off of a year where they didn't win a game, they're going to be a better football team this year. There's no doubt about that. Second-year head coach Nick Cass is going to do a really good job with that program. I have faith in that. But you said at the West, wide open. You didn't mention Hanover Horton. I think Hanover Horton, with Luke Soper coming back, and hopefully he remains healthy for the entire year, I think they can create a mess there. So just kind of look at that entire West. What happens? Who can actually win that league? Some of those individual games are going to be really interesting as we go through the season. And exactly the same thing on the East. Everybody keeps talking about Grass Lake and Michigan Center. That's going to be an incredible game, and watching them throughout the year is going to be incredible. But I'll tell you what, Napoleon's not going anywhere. We know they have a very good football team. They're going to look different than they have in years past, but they have a very good football team. And then Leslie, I think Leslie's going to be really tough. They bring back a bunch of starters from last year, had an off year last year. They're on a losing season streak, and I think that's going to get broken this year.
Yeah, I know last year I had a chance to watch Leslie take on East Jackson. And Leslie, that was a team that, like you mentioned, they're on a losing season streak. They only won a couple of games last year. But there were some really bright some big moments, some bright spots on that team from Leslie, and I think Coach McCann's done a great job with Leslie, so I definitely expect them to be a contender in the East. And like you mentioned, a lot of people have been talking about Grass Lake and Michigan Center, and I think other than when those two teams play, I think the second biggest game behind that, Grass Lake is also playing, and that's the one we'll have on JTV, Grass Lake and Napoleon. I think that'll be a great game.
It's got to be. I mean, it's been a good game historically over the past couple of years. Two rivals, it's typically going to be good. But Napoleon's going to look different this year. Napoleon's going to be more of a full house tee. That's the way that their athletes line up, and that's the way that Coach Shell thinks they have the best chance to compete. We talked about it. They lost so much from last year, but then you also hear them talk about how they're the strongest team they've ever been. You think about workouts in the off season, and they track this stuff. They have a big board in the weight room, and they are the strongest as a program that they have ever been. That's exciting to see what they can do with new batch of players, but ones that have really put the work in and have done a great job in the weight room. But yeah, I mean, initially after media day, did I do the same thing? Yeah, I look at Michigan Center and Grass Lake, two best teams likely coming back, but very unique and kind of look similar. Returning quarterbacks, quality quarterbacks, skill players all over the place, with questions at the line of scrimmage. And what team can kind of establish themselves offensively at the line of scrimmage, I think will be really important. And then obviously defensively, who can actually stop somebody. And if one of those two teams can establish a really good offensive line and a good defense, I think they're going to be the favorites in the conference.
And last year, again, it was Napoleon Addison in the conference championship game. But I think in Grass Lake, they were right there. A lot of people might forget that. They only lost to Napoleon by 1. That's a game that they were leading for a lot of the time in, that I thought Grass Lake should have won that game. And same thing with Manchester. They lost by 1 or 2 points to them. So if those results would have been different, again, looking back, if you were to ask me then, I don't think Grass Lake would have beat Addison. But I think Grass Lake is right there. And now that, again, it is more of an open East division this year, you could see Grass Lake hopefully get over that hump and get back to the Cascades title game. And they made the playoffs last year. They were stuck with playing at Lumen in the first round, and that's bound to happen with any team here. And I know Lumen's now in Division 6 this year, which we'll get to Lumen and Center in our second segment. But last year with Lumen, you had the last couple of years, Lumen played Napoleon in the semifinal. We were there at Chelsea. They've played Grass Lake. So I think Grass Lake is, I think, even better or equal as they were last year. I know they had a good running back last year in Metheringham, who graduated, and a couple of other key players. But I think for Grass Lake, they were right there last year, and I expect them to be around the same, if not better.
Well, when you have a head coach like Randy Cole, you're going to always be competitive. And what
Yep.
he has done is tremendous at that program over the past 2 decades. He's done a great job of building that program, sustaining that program, which I think is even harder than building it. And so they're always competitive. But you're right. And when you got a quarterback like Braden Lape who can sling it all over, you have an offensive style that they call with just that spread offense with and you have the weapons that they're going to have. Cook has really put a lot of work into the weight room. Hopefully he can stay healthy because I really just like the way that he plays football. I mean, they're going to be fun to watch offensively. I still think it comes down to defense and who in that side of the conference can establish a defense that makes it hard on offenses. Because when you look at 2 teams like Michigan Center and Grass Lake, both of those teams are going to score. They're going to score on most anybody. The question is, and the difference will be, can they stop anybody?
Right. And that we'll talk about it in our next segment. But like Michigan Center last year, same thing. They have a lot of weapons, especially on the offensive side of the ball. We know they can score, and we know they're going to score, but it comes down to defense. And obviously, looking at it just on paper coming into last year when Center played Lumen, obviously we knew Center has a great offense, but were they going to be able to make those stops on defense? And obviously it's tough when you start off your season with a team like Lumen Christi, and that's the same thing again this year, so it'll be back at Lumen's place to kick off tomorrow night.
Here's what I'll guarantee you. Michigan Center is going to be great on offense all season long.
Yep.
No question about it. Troy Allen, what he's done there offensively, they're going to be really good. But you got to remember this team gave up 28 points a game last year against Cascades Conference teams, right? I mean, so they got to be better. If they're going to compete not only in Lumen against Week 1, but if you're going to make any type of run like they did just back 2021, if you're going to make a run in the playoffs and get regional championships and beyond, you have to have a defense that can stop people. And that's what I'm excited to see. How has this defense evolved? How have the athletes evolved? They bring a lot back on defense, so I expect improvements there. We're going to see it firsthand tomorrow night, but then as we get into the bulk of their Cascades Conference season, I think is where we will really learn how good is this defense.
Well, when we come back, we'll talk more about our 25th season of football kicking off tomorrow night. Lumen Christi and Michigan Center. More with Josh Burgett coming up here on JTV. Welcome back here on JTV. I'm David Rice. That's producer Adam. Hello, Adam.
Hello.
We're still here with JTV sports commentator Josh Burgett. We're talking before the break about high school football and some team previews going into this season. Want to dive a little bit more into our first game of our broadcast schedule tomorrow night. For those, again, 25th season presented by Minuteman Sewer and Drain. That'll be tomorrow, Thursday night, 6:45. It'll be myself. It'll be you, Pat O'Dowd, Max Fritz on the sideline. I'm really excited to have 4 of us on this broadcast.
It's a cast of characters. It is tremendous to see the growth of our broadcast, what the production looks like now, and what you see on screen. We've gone from 2 to 4, but I think what people don't see is how much is going on behind the scenes and how much our production has changed and the resources that are being put towards these games. So I'm excited for people to be able to see the output, and then when you're actually at a game, when you can just see the amount of JTV shirts that are running around trying to put a great broadcast forward.
For sure. So Lumen hosting Michigan Center, Lumen Christi coming in back-to-back defending state champions in Division 7. This year they opted to play in Division 6. Last time they were in D6, 2018, and they won the state championship over Montague. So first, before we dive into Lumen Center, what are your thoughts on Lumen now playing again in Division 6, and what do you think that'll look like?
Yeah, I mean, Herb would be pretty upset at hearing me say this, but I think it's an easier road, quite frankly. 7 is loaded, and especially locally. You run into teams very quickly that are very talented, like Clinton and Hudson and teams like that. Can Lumen beat them? Of course, they've beat them the past few years, but they're just really tough games early on, which you don't always deal with. And 6, I mean, I think they can compete right away in Division 6, and so it'll be interesting to see. But they didn't do it for that reason. They did it because it's easier to schedule people, and I know that the conference wants to see them be a little bit higher level because as the way the playoff system works now, the lower your division, the less points you get yourself, the less points you get for the teams that play you. So when you're going to play a really talented team like Lumen Christi and they're only getting Division 7 points, it's tough to schedule games like that. So opted up to 6. Which I think is noble, but then I also think when we get into the playoffs, I think it's going to work out really well for Lumen. I look at this team, and they have holes. We'll talk about that. They have holes that they got to fill, but this is a really talented team coming back, and a team that week 1, before we snap the ball, I expect to be a competitor for a Division 6 state championship again and pursue a second three-peat from a state championship perspective.
So there's a couple other teams, I think, locally or somewhat in our region, right in Division 6. There's Michigan Center is in 6. If you have a team that I know they've struggled the last couple of years, but you've got, I think, Onstead is in Division 6. So you'll run into, but like you said, 7's more loaded, and you made a great point that, even though it's Lumen Christi, they were still only in Division 7. You're not getting very many points, and now when it comes down to the points in the playoffs versus 6 wins and you're in, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's good to, play a team like Lumen Christi if you're whoever, but because they're only Division 7, what is from the points perspective, what benefit is that, going to give you?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. So, I mean, I think it does help. It really helps them go into 6, but I believe when I look at the state rankings from last year, you look at the teams that are coming back, I'll tell you right now, I think Lumen Christi would have won Division 6 last year. They won Division 7. I think if they were competing in Division 6, they would have been able to win that. I mean, you watched that D6 championship game, 2 good quality teams, but I thought both the D7 teams were more talented than both the Division 6 teams. So I just look for them to be an immediate competitor back, as you said, it's for the first time since 2018 back. And quite frankly, I think everybody should love it because if we get to make a trek back to Ford Field, which is obviously a great experience to have, and everybody wants to do that, we get to do it on Friday. We don't get to have to go out on Saturday.
6 is on Friday?
There is.
Not Saturday at 9
no,
a.m.?
We don't have to deal with the Michigan-Ohio State game. Everybody can go enjoy a Lumen Christi game, and then they can go enjoy a Michigan-Ohio State game. I might be being selfish there, but I'm looking forward to that.
No, I agree. I obviously the experience of being it was my first time being at Ford Field watching Lumen Christi. I know you and Noah and the rest of the crew have been there X amount of years, but it was cool for me my first time being on the field in Detroit watching Lumen Christi. But I'm not a morning person whatsoever, so meeting us here at the station at 6 or 7 a.m. on a Saturday or Sunday, and then going to Detroit, I was not so from a timing perspective. It's great, D6 on a Friday, but with Lumen Center, they played last year. We had it on JTV. I know you and Joel Freeling were there. I was not at that game. I think I had maybe the craziest game that we've in the last handful of years. That first week. But Lumen shut out Michigan Center last year, and taken away from what you saw last year, what are you looking forward to the most, or what are your key takeaways for tomorrow night's game?
So that game was 41-0, and it got away from them quickly. And so when I look at this, it'll go back to what I talked about already with Michigan Center, because what they need to improve on is what really hindered them in this game against Lumen Christi. And unfortunately, it's where Lumen Christi excelled last year, right? So first of all, the line of scrimmage is key. We're going to talk about that a lot tomorrow night, but Michigan Center has to find a way to be competitive. They don't even have to dominate. You don't have to win the line of scrimmage. You have to be competitive and not get blown off the ball every single time by this offensive line from Lumen Christi. I think that's one really key thing, that if Michigan Center is going to compete in this game, they have to be competitive at the line of scrimmage. The other thing is they got to start early. They have to find a way to get going early. They can't allow a 14-0 deficit to Lumen Christi, because that Golden Dome kind of comes into people's minds. And it shouldn't. There's been enough Cascades Conference versus Lumen Christi competitions over the past few years that we've seen it. And you see a team like Napoleon a couple years ago was able to compete with Lumen Christi. And they did it because they were able to compete at the line of scrimmage. And you talked about that game that we were at. But that's what you have to do. And if you can't, you're going to be in a lot of trouble, because Lumen Christi is so good there. The other thing is if you're Michigan Center, you have to find a way to score. They have not done a tremendous job of scoring when they've had chances to play Lumen Christi. They've lost all 3 times that they've met. They scored 14 points in the first 2 matchups. Those were playoff games, and they scored late in those games. But in the last game last year, they didn't score at all. You got to find a way to get some scores, and likely to do that, you got to get big plays. You're likely not going to be able to just move the ball methodically down the field, and so I think for Michigan Center, they have to find a way to get offensive explosive plays.
And it's like you said, they don't. As far as the line of scrimmage, it's hard to be dominant against Lumen Christi really anywhere on the field, let alone the line of scrimmage. You don't have to be dominant. You don't have to, completely beat them on the line. You have to be able to, hold with them in order to. Otherwise, if the Lumen Christi offensive line is just going to dominate, you're going to see, Kadale Williams rush for X hundred amount of yards. And right away, from the first drive last year, he scored on one of the first 2 plays of the game, like right away. Like you said, it got away from Michigan Center. They have to be able to, obviously defense will be their big question, especially against Lumen, but their offense, we know they can score. They have to come out right away and start hot, and then be able to at least hold with that line and keep it close for as long as they can.
If you can keep Hayden Hinkle upright, Michigan Center can compete. That's the key in my mind. You have to keep him upright. You can't allow the defense to crash on him, make him move out of the pocket, and not allow him to just set his feet and throw. If he has time to look through his receiving core, he's going to be okay. Because I think and we're going to learn a lot about Lumen Christi this year. In this game, because one of their biggest weak spots coming back from last year is that defensive backfield. I'm not saying they're not going to be good. We just know that they're inexperienced and they're changed. So how good will they be? We're going to see if Michigan Center has a chance to actually throw the ball around. But the key is the offensive line for Michigan Center has to be able to hold back that defense, give Hayden Hinkle a chance to actually throw the football and find some of those targets, because he's got athletes all over the field.
Right. So switching gears here, staying on topic of high school football, there's a couple other teams who have had one in specific that had another great year last year was Western. I believe they're Division III, and they got matched up with a Zeeland, if I remember correctly, in the playoffs there. We were at that game at Western. And they were really good last year, and you had a chance to follow them in their first couple playoff games. We had our broadcast live here for it. What are you looking at with Western coming into this year?
A really good football team. They are improved. Nick Rulowitz has done a tremendous job with this program. Just continues to build it, continues to add to staff. You're going to see some familiar faces on this coaching staff. He's added new coaches, so he has a complete offensive and defensive staff, which I think is interesting. But he's brought in Bill Dreyer from the former Marshall head coach. He was a coach at Albion College, coach position group there. You have Josh Kubiak, who we remember from Columbia Central. We have Mark Bower, who was a D coordinator and head coach at Addison years ago. And a handful of other new coaches to the staff. So I'm excited to kind of see what they do from a coaching staff perspective. But then once you get on the field, it's a really good team. You got to look at their quarterback, Reed Myers, first returning quarterback that Rulowitz has had since he's been here. So he's just excited to kind of have that type of relationship with a returning quarterback, knowing he's got that kind of consistency at the position. They are really explosive on defense. I'm excited to see this defense. They have been good the past few years. Cody Bentley's their defensive coordinator. They do what they call havoc defense. That's kind of their mantra, and it's been really good. I think it's going to be even better this year. It'll be exciting to see them as they compete in the I-8. And then they're one of the few teams in the area that we can talk about special teams. When you got a guy like Noah Berdner, who is just one of the best kickers in the state, not just the area, who's fun to watch. He does a great job playing the field position game for on kickoffs, but then also great from field goals, great for PATs, does punting for them. And then you got a guy like Kobe Tripp, who has offers from Central Michigan, from University of Florida to be a long snapper. So the work that they've done at the special teams is really incredible. So I think this team is going to be really, really talented this year. Fully expect them to compete for an I-8 championship and make a deep run in Division 4. They were 3 last year. 4, I think, is an interesting move for them, and they're going to play schools like Chelsea, and it'll be interesting to see how they can compete at that level.
And I think it was my first football season here with JTV. It was when Western played at Chelsea in that playoff game, and it was a big 28-0 lead. They had a comeback, and that was an ultimate game that I still remember covering. So it'll be interesting to see how they line up with Chelsea and some of the other powerhouses in Division 4. And another team, obviously, when you look at, like the teams you're excited most about this year, you have your Lumen Christie, see if they can three-peat, or your Grass Lake or your Western. But one team that's done a really great job, they've really turned it around the last couple of years, is the Mounties of Northwest.
I mean, Stafford Newsom, a ton of credit has to be given to him and then the staff who hired him and brought him in to lead this program. But 2 consecutive winning seasons, which for a lot of teams in the area, that's nothing. But they haven't done that since 2013. That's a real strong, impressive move for the program for Northwest. They are looking to add to that. They want to get themselves into the playoffs. This is a really talented team. I really like what Stafford Newsom's done. It'll be interesting to see how they can compete in the I-8, right? Their offensive line is going to be really key. They bring back a bunch of their offensive line, so they should be have some cohesion. They should be able to compete really well. You're going to see Nathan Ladashevsky, who's going to be the primary ball carrier. You know the Mounties, if you've seen them play the past couple of years, they want to run the football. So if that offensive line can get going, if Ladashevsky can have a good season, I like big things from the Mounties.
So again, Lumen Christie, Michigan Center, 6:45 Thursday night. Our 25th season kicks off here on JTV. Well, we have just a couple of more minutes. Not only is high school football returning this weekend, you got the defending national champion, the Wolverines, kicking off Saturday night too.
Can you say that again?
Defending national champion,
right. Yeah.
Michigan Wolverines, with Sharon Moore coming back as the head coach. I really like him, and I think he'll do an exceptional job with Michigan. Now, it's really, I don't want to say a whole new team with Michigan, but there are a lot of new pieces or guys who didn't play starting snaps last year. And, obviously we still have Donovan Edwards at running back, but we still don't know right now who the starting quarterback is going to be officially for Michigan, either Alex Orji or Warren. So from what I've read, it's been a good competitive quarterback battle, and I think both, to me, it should be Orji starting at quarterback. They've designed some place for him already last year. Just looking at that alone, I don't see why he's not the starting quarterback.
Well, I think Coach Moore comes from the camp of Coach Harbaugh, where you're just not going to play your cards before you have to. I think that's the strategy there. I think the locker room likely knows who the starting quarterback is, and I think your intuition's right. I think Orji should be the quarterback. I imagine he will be. And I'm excited about that. If another quarterback from the program can come up and take that spot, I think that's only good for the Michigan Wolverines, because I have a lot of faith in Alex Orji. I think he'll be a talented quarterback for the program going forward. So if somebody else comes in and takes it, I think that's even better for the Wolverine fans.
He already made some great plays too last year for Michigan. And again, you pair him with Donovan Edwards, who's had some really big moments for them the last couple of seasons. And then you have young guys who are still exceptional receivers, like a Samaj Morgan for the Wolverines. And then you have the best corner, to me, in college football, Will Johnson, too, on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm interested to see how Michigan does. They open up with Fresno State Saturday night. I rarely ever miss home games, like us being season ticket holders. And this is, I hate to miss the first game this weekend, but I will not be at the Big House. And I'm disappointed by that. But
why not?
I just didn't work out with the planning with everybody. I will be at the actually, me and Adam and Noah and Austin are going to the Texas game week 2. So
now I love that. One, you guys are going to have a great time at that game. That's going to be crazy. But I think that's when we're going to learn how good is this football team.
Yep.
I expect them to go out and play really well against Fresno, win that game big. If they don't, I'm going to be concerned. But I think I'm going into this season thinking that Michigan's defense is going to be really, really good. You talked about Johnson and Brandon Graham on the front line. I think at all 3 levels, this is a really talented Michigan defense. We're going to learn a lot against Texas. Texas, we know, is a very talented team, and I hope, because I believe that they are going to be a competitor again. I don't know that they're a national championship competitor again, but I believe Texas is a national championship competitor, and I think we can play with them. I think Oregon is a national championship competitor. I think we can play with them, and same thing with Ohio State. So it's almost naive not to say they're a national championship competitor, because I think they can play with everybody on their schedule.
Now, the last couple of years, it's been the first 4 or 5 games at home, and they've played teams who we know Michigan is going to beat them by a lot. And now this year with a new Big Ten conference, now there's 18 teams in the Big Ten. That's still ridiculous to me. Even when they added Rutgers a while back, Rutgers and Maryland people were freaking out, and now that they added 4 new schools. But no, the last couple of years they've played teams who we know they're going to beat the first 4 or 5 weeks at home, and now they have a test. Like you said, right away we know what level Michigan is going to be on because they have Texas, then they have USC, they have Oregon, Washington, and still Ohio State. So 5 top 10 teams on their schedule. So this is the toughest schedule they've had in, I would say, it's been a while.
How exciting is that? I love it.
It's
as
exciting.
a fan, and it's I'm not gonna. I don't love the condensing of the conferences and that and the movement that we've seen, but as a fan, I love it now. And when you get to see these schedules come out, you look even down at the SEC and some of the schedules and the games that you're going to see as regular season games there. You look across the Big Ten and some of the great games we're going to see now on a yearly basis. I mean, it's really exciting. You just said it. We get to see Michigan, USC, Michigan, Oregon, Michigan, Washington. Texas non-conference, but I don't care. Great football game that we're going to get to see, and I'm excited to see the games. And it comes at a wonderful time with the new playoff format, where it's not this like one and you're done and you got no chance anymore.
Right. I was just going to mention, even if out of those 4 or 5 tough games you lose 2 of them, there's 12 teams. It's not like you're completely out of it.
Yeah, and if you're competitive in those games and you lose to 2 high-quality teams, I firmly believe we're going to see 2 lost teams in the college football playoff.
For sure. Our 25th season of high school football here on JTV Sports kicks off tomorrow night. The Titans hosting the Michigan Center Cardinals. Myself, Josh, Pat O'Dowd, and Max Fritz on the call for that. Thanks for joining the show, Josh, and we'll see you tomorrow night at Lumen.
My pleasure, David. Thank you.
We've got more of the show coming up in a couple of minutes. Stay with us. Welcome back here on JTV. I'm David Rice. Thanks to Josh Burgett for joining the show. Excited to have him on the call. Me, Josh, Pat O'Dowd, Max Fritz. Thursday night, Lumen, Michigan Center at 6:45. Presented by Minuteman Sewer and Drain. A quarter of a century, 25 years of high school football on JTV. Of course, Adam, he'll be there as well, and the rest of our crew.
There.
So, looking forward to it. Football's back. It's our favorite time of the year. And congratulations to our own Josh Burgett, too, the new varsity head softball coach at Napoleon High School. So congratulations to Josh Burgett. Getting a good one, for sure, for the Pirates.
For sure.
So I think that's going to do it for today's show. We were almost out of time, so
packed show.
Yeah, thanks to Josh for joining the show, and tune in high school football tomorrow night here on JTV. We'll see you then.